A 23-year-old walks onto a CNN panel, asks one question nobody can answer, and suddenly everyone loses their composure, including a veteran journalist with 56 years in the business. If you haven't seen this yet, you're about to understand why it's been everywhere. I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. The original confrontation, Geraldo Rivera calling Adam Mockler a dick on live television, and then Mockler sitting right across from him and responding to his face. It's a lot. Make sure you're subscribed to Clear Record so you don't miss the breakdown, and let's get into it.
Let me bring in Adam Mockler. Welcome to Uncensored, Adam. You've obviously hit the headlines in the last few days. For those who haven't seen it, I think it's up there with my Russell Brand clip as the two most memed and republished clips of the week. So let's take a look at your one. This is you with Scott Jennings at CNN.
I mean, honestly, they have been at war with us for 47 years.
We all know that Scott Jennings is more than happy to defend a war with a country that starts with the letters IRA that we are currently failing, that is going to put us trillions and trillions of dollars more in debt. I was only a few years old while you were in the administration defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat?
Homie, I debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not going your way.
One political concession.
Name
one political concession.
Whoa,
Honestly, I'm not going to have this guy's
everybody,
in my face.
everybody, hang tight.
Honestly.
Okay. No, everybody, calm down. Okay.
Now, as somebody who was repeatedly actually manhandled by Russell Brand, I think your manhandling was at least a little bit removed. There was daylight between your arms and Scott Jennings. But what was interesting about the exchange to me was not that he was not entitled to get annoyed with the way you were gesticulating. I probably would have done too. But I've not seen him that rattled. Scott Jennings is normally ice cool on that panel show. I watch it a lot. I think he's a really interesting commentator for the right on CNN. It's an unusual beast. They don't have many of them. And he holds his own often against 3 or 4 people. And on this occasion, Geraldo was also on the panel, I noted. And we'll come to Geraldo for his view of it in a minute. But I haven't seen Scott Jennings react like that to anybody. And that, to me, in the same way that I'm seeing with Donald Trump's slightly erratic and, quite angry and testy social media activity in the last few weeks, it just looks to me like people that have gone all in on this war in Iran, now it's not playing out in any way that they predicted or told everybody that it was going to play out. They're getting testy. They're getting quite angry about it, which is a natural human reaction, but is increasingly obvious. And I thought your exchange with Scott was indicative of that. What did you think?
I don't want to take away from the point that I was making in the question that I was asking in that moment, because I have sat on panel after panel after panel with Scott Jennings as he lies about this war, not bound by any facts whatsoever, as he makes failed predictions, not bound by any timelines whatsoever, and as he condescends and trolls and provokes everyone else on the panel. I mean, even in the same panel, he made fun of my bedtime like 5 minutes earlier. So this is a man that's not bound by any facts or timelines or rules. So I said, I'm not going to be bound by rules that my opponent is not playing it. So you can say that I was gesticulating a bit too much. That's a fair criticism, but he could have politely asked me to tone it down. That is not what he did. He snapped because he realized he does not have an answer to the simple question, name one political concession we've gotten from Iran 60 days into this war. We've had moving, shifting timelines, shifting objectives for this war. They've been lowering the threshold for what victory is considered as. And just because I asked the question of, hey, what concessions have we gotten, that pisses him off. We've seen billions of dollars spent. We saw dozens of people, thousands of people in Iran have died, tens of thousands, but we saw over a dozen U.S. soldiers die. So I'm going to continue to ask this very same question. What political concessions have we gotten from Iran 60 days into this war? The answer is absolutely none, and he knows the answer is none. That's why he freaked out.
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly
and
reasonable...
don't apologize.
No,
don't apologize for your
I don't think you shouldn't be
gesturing.
apologising. No, I mean,
Yeah.
Let me bring Geraldo in first, though, because Geraldo, you were on the panel. I want to play your reaction on News Nation to what you saw on that panel.
The kid was a dick. I mean, he really smart, eloquent, had his argument together, had obviously debated Scott before, and he was really being a dick. I mean, it was shut up, go out and get some life experience.
How many different...
I wasn't sure if you were talking about Chris Cuomo there, actually, Geraldo. I had to clarify you were talking actually about Adam Mockler. Now,
you still think so?
Well, Adam, I mean, what do you want to say to Geraldo? He called you a dick. Do you have a response?
Yeah, it's not a dick to try to force a critical question and try to force the conversation to where the American people want it. Geraldo, you were there when Scott made fun of my bedtime 5 minutes earlier. Again, this is somebody not bound by any rules whatsoever on this show. He's able to lie over and over. Why should I be bound by some decorum that my opponents aren't bound by? Do you see what I'm saying? It's not the 80s anymore. It's not even 2010 anymore. We are in a new era where we are playing in a reciprocal manner. So I'm not playing the games where I have to be nice. And regarding life experience, really quickly, you have a whole life of experience and you're on the same panels as me. We're on the same shows. We have a show last week. We have a show today. So life experience, what has it gotten you? I don't know.
All right, Geraldo, your life experience has got you nowhere, says the young dick.
Well, it's got me a career that's lasted 56 years so far and counting, and aside from 10 Emmys and a few other trinkets. And
now you're on the same panels
Adam, listen, don't be a wise ass, okay? I said to you in the commercial break that immediately followed your confrontation with Scott that I thought that you made some good points. The problem is that you can be very obnoxious in your presentation. Now, sometimes being obnoxious can lead to a whole career, but I advise you strongly, because you're a smart kid and you obviously prepared, for the debate. Stick to that. Stick to the substance, because I think that you do have a future. In terms of Scott Jennings, I like Scott very much. I didn't know him before this CNN experience. It was fun talking to him in the green room before the show, and then see the confrontation, this spontaneous combustion. I was surprised. I was surprised by the fact that Scott reacted as he did. But then, just listening to Adam, he can be very grating, and sometimes that works. I remember Morton Downey and a bunch of others from daytime TV and so forth. But I strongly advise you to stick to the substance, because you can, as I indicated in the commercial break following the confrontation, you can be a voice for a generation that has so far been unable to penetrate into the mainstream media. That's my opinion.
This is so indicative of the double standards that we see all throughout the media. I mean, you went on that whole rant, but you didn't mention that Scott Jennings made fun of my bedtime or whatever. Not that I care, but he's the one who has an obnoxious air.
What did he say about your bedtime? I missed that.
So I asked him a question 5 minutes before. I said, hey, what concession has Iran gotten? And he says, aren't you a little bit up past your bedtime or something? He started with the condescending jabs.
To be fair, Adam, you are literally beaming into the show from your bedroom.
It's a hotel room. I'm currently at a hotel room. But, I mean, either way.
It's not the best way to refute the suggestion that it's past your bedtime.
What are you talking about? I'm in a hotel room in New York because I have CNN again tonight.
Adam, it's a joke. You're reacting a bit. You're reacting a bit like Scott did the other day. So take a chill pill. You happen to have a bed behind you as you're refuting the charge that it's past your bedtime. I'm just making a joke.
It's a good joke. One final thing. I'm 23. Maybe my youthful arrogance will drop with time, but there's no excuse for Scott Jennings to be on air all the time, making remarks at everybody else. And then the moment somebody gives it back, he can dish it, but he can't take it. The moment somebody tries to force the question, what political concession have we gotten from Iran? He gets worked up. So yeah.
Well, okay. I don't know Scott Jennings at all. I never met him. I think he's a very effective communicator on a network, CNN, that when I was there was very, very, very cautious about revealing any kind of partisan bias, but now has a panel show where quite often on that show they have 4 on one side and Scott Jennings. So I actually feel like he puts up a pretty good fight, given he's often heavily outnumbered. But Anna, on a sort of slightly wider point here, it's very interesting to me. I just interviewed Megyn Kelly for 20 minutes at the start of this show. And I could have been talking to you about some of these issues, right? Same with Tucker Carlson. A lot of you have blended now into a weird family of people who have a lot of agreement about a lot of things. Iran, the influence of Israel, Donald Trump and his mistake, as you see it, and so on. Did you think a time would come when you would be siding rhetorically on these big, big issues with so many who are on the conservative right? And what does that tell you about the state of the conservative right when you've got people like Mark?
All right, so let's start with Geraldo Rivera, because honestly, that's where this gets frustrating to watch, regardless of where you stand on any of this. Mockler's point about Scott Jennings was pretty straightforward. He said Jennings has been on panel after panel making predictions about the Iran war that haven't come true, shifting the goalposts on what victory looks like, and doing it all while being condescending to everyone else on the panel. In Mockler's specific example, Jennings making a crack about his bedtime 5 minutes before the flashpoint. That's not a minor detail. That's directly relevant to the question of who set the tone. Geraldo was there for all of it. He was on that same panel. And when he went on News Nation, he called Mockler a dick. Smart, eloquent, well-prepared, his words, but a dick. Fine, that's his opinion. What's harder to explain is that in that same breath, he had nothing to say about Jennings. Not one word about the bedtime comment. Not one word about whether Jennings' conduct warranted any criticism at all. Mockler flagged this directly, and Geraldo's response was essentially that he hadn't heard the bedtime remark, which he was sitting right there. Then Geraldo brings up his 56-year career and his 10 Emmys when Mockler pushes back on him. And Mockler's response to that is worth listening to carefully. He points out that all of that experience has landed Geraldo on the exact same panels, on the exact same shows, at the exact same time. That's not an insult. It's a factual observation about where the two of them currently are, and it lands because Geraldo doesn't really have an answer to it. Now, Geraldo does say something that matters. He told Mockler during the commercial break after the CNN confrontation that his points were solid. He repeats that on air. He also tells him he has the potential to be a voice for a generation. So it's not that Geraldo dismisses the substance entirely. His argument is purely about delivery. But the problem, and this is what Mockler and Kasparian are both getting at, is that the delivery conversation keeps happening in place of the substance conversation, not alongside it. And the substance question is this. After more than 60 days of a war with Iran, billions of dollars spent, and over a dozen American soldiers killed, what political concessions has the United States actually secured? Mockler asked it on CNN. Jennings didn't answer it. Mockler asked it again on Piers Morgan's panel. It still doesn't get a direct answer. If you want to say the regime was removed, okay. But Mockler's point, which nobody addresses on either panel, is that the new regime that came in is, by most accounts, more hardline than the one before it. So the question of what was actually achieved remains sitting there, unanswered. That's the thread running through this entire exchange. You can have a separate conversation about whether Mockler's style is too aggressive, whether he gesticulates too much, whether a hotel room is the ideal backdrop for television. Piers Morgan's joke about that is fair enough. But none of those things answer the question. And when the question keeps not getting answered, it eventually becomes the story itself. As for Piers Morgan, he's moderating, he interjects with a joke, and he raises some broader points about ideological convergence in media that are genuinely interesting. But Mockler's observation that Morgan did the same thing as Geraldo, steering toward tone and delivery rather than substance, is there in the transcript for anyone to look at and judge for themselves. What you're watching in this exchange, when you strip it back, is a fairly straightforward collision between two different ideas about how political debate is supposed to work, who gets to set the rules, who those rules apply to, and what happens when someone decides they're not going to follow them unilaterally. Whether Mockler handled it the right way is a legitimate question. Whether the question he keeps asking deserves a direct answer is a different one. And right now, those two conversations keep getting tangled together. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you in the next one.